Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today is the 27th of August, and we're on page 74 of the magazine. Today's article is entitled Great Dads of the Animal Kingdom.
我们中文标题是父爱无敌，动物界里的爸爸，好爸爸。Yeah.
好爸爸, that's the main
that's
point.
Important, yeah.
Because there's lots of fathers in the animal kingdom, one for every animal, that is.
Exactly.
However, it seems that in the animal kingdom, fatherhood is mostly optional.
Yeah. 这个好像在动物的世界里面呢，这个当爸爸这件事情呢，好像是可以 optional， 就是可以选择的，通常就是不选的。所以很多这个动物呢，爸爸可能小孩甚至于妈妈怀孕之后，爸爸就走掉了所以好像生儿育女跟爸爸没有关系在动物世界里面，很多时候好像是这样。
So it is really notable when fathers involve themselves. And one of those species in which fathers involve themselves is, of course, the human species.
Yeah, 好，所以这个动物界里面呢，这个爸爸扮演比较吃重的角色，这是不容易的当然最明显的一个例子是人类人类这个爸爸当然跟妈妈是一样重要的。
So let's look at this article. We have about 5 species that we're going to talk about, and it's all really interesting. This is a 2-day article, so today we're only going to talk about 2.
今天这篇文章是两天文章的第一天，所以今天我们只谈2个这个动物界里的好爸爸。明天我们会继续讲另外3个动物界里的好爸爸。
Okay, so let's read today's part of the article. When it comes to parenting in the animal kingdom, we typically see the female as playing the most important role. We focus on maternal instinct, the motherly urge to protect and nurture offspring. Yet there is also a paternal instinct, and in some species, it is the male that does most of the work of raising the kids. In this article, we honor a few of the best dads around, some of which may surprise you. The Emperor Penguin, minding the egg. If an award were handed out for the best father on the planet, one of the strongest contenders for that title would be the Emperor Penguin. Once the female has laid an egg, she is exhausted and must return to the sea to feed. That leaves it entirely up to the male to make sure the egg remains safe and warm during her absence, which may last more than 120 days. This is no easy task. To keep the egg from freezing on the Antarctic ice, a male must balance the egg on top of his feet. Meanwhile, the father uses a warm patch of skin on his belly to provide warmth for the egg. Not only that, but the male must also sleep standing up. Moreover, the male doesn't eat during the entire time the mother is away. The Namaqua sand grouse, traveling for water. While male emperor penguins need to keep eggs safe in temperatures lower than minus 40 degrees Celsius and in winds that reach as high as 200 kilometers an hour, the male Namaqua sand grouse of Africa has an entirely different problem. In the hot, dry desert climate, this bird may need to fly up to 30 kilometers to reach water holes in order to bring water back to its nest. It does this by wading in the pond for 15 minutes so its feathers soak up the water. Back at the nest, the sand grouse chicks crowd around the male and drink the water from its feathers. Wow, what a cool contrast. I think if you have a choice of 5 and you have to split it up into 2 groups, the best thing to do is what this author has done, which is take 2 extremes to present them in contrast to each other. Because human beings are hardwired to appreciate contrast, so that's the sort of thing that we like.
好，所以呢，这个作者很聪明在这5个要谈的动物里面选了这2个放在一起，因为这2个正好是一个对比。好，那人类对于对比呢，这个天生会有一种比较这个很有兴趣，或者很喜欢接受，或者这个比较习惯都会注意到对比这种东西。
So, the first paragraph says, when it comes to parenting in the animal kingdom, we typically see the female as playing the most important role. Why did we start off our sentence with when it comes to? Why are we talking about coming to? This is actually a typical way for English speakers to introduce a new subject. So when it comes to just means when it comes to the point where this becomes important, or when it comes to talking about this idea, if we're going to talk about this idea, and so we're saying, if we're going to talk about parenting in the animal kingdom, if this is the topic we're going to discuss, then we can say we usually or typically see the female as playing the most important role. And that's because the female is the most important role. Without females, there is no offspring.
好，所以看到这个 when it comes to 就是当我们谈到什么什么，通常它是用来介绍引介一个新的话题啊。所以我们如果谈到 parenting 啊，就是当父母这件事情啊，那在这里指的其实就是所谓的育儿之道等等的啊。所以当我们谈到 parenting 啊，那 in the animal kingdom 啊，在动物世界里面谈到这个育儿之道，或者谈到当父母这件事情呢，we typically 我们很典型的就会 see 看到 the female， 我们会 see the female， 我们会把女性看成playing the most important role 我们会认为女性，我们会把女性看成她们扮演的是最重要的角色所以 see the female as playing the most important role.
We focus on maternal instinct. Instinct is the motherly urge to protect and nurture offspring. When you see a dash in an English sentence like that, it usually tells you there's going to be a definition after this. So don't worry. If you didn't understand the word you just read and then you see a dash immediately after it, that means the author knows and is going to give you some help. So what is instinct? It is the motherly urge. An urge is an important feeling that you can't ignore. And so it's the motherly urge to protect and nurture to their offspring. Offspring are kids or children or babies. And nurture means take care of.
好，所以我们 focus on 我们会把焦点放在什么呢？ Maternal instinct 就是女性的母性的不是女性是母性母性的本能。那什么叫母性的本能呢？它后面一个 dash， 那在英文里面你看到 dash 常常表示它要继续说明前面这个字或这件事情所以你如果不懂得 instinct 什么意思没关系，你再往后看他就告诉你说所谓的 maternal instinct 就是 the motherly 就是母亲的 urge 就是一个冲动一个强烈的欲望想要 protect 保护还要想要 nurture 养育他的后代所以这是母性的本能。
Yet there is also a paternal instinct, and thank goodness, because mothers can't do it by ourselves. And in some species, in some kinds of animals, it is the male that does the most work of raising the kids, does most of the work or does the most work of raising the kids, of doing something. Now, we have it is and that underlined, and this is a way to emphasize a topic in a sentence. So you could just have said, in some species, the male does most of the work, but we really want to emphasize that it is the male that does most of the work. It's not the female. Like, the female is the expected person to do most of the work, but in these cases, it is the male that does the work.
好，所以 it is 什么什么 that 这是一种强调句型那我们本来也可以说 the male does most of the work of raising the kids 这样就可以了，但是你要强调不是别人是这个男性来负责所以你就把你要强调的部分 the male 提出来放在 it is 后面就变成 it is the male 然后再加一个 that 然后呢就把这个句子剩下的部分把它写出来 does most of the work of raising the kids 这样就形成了强调句型所以 it is the male 是男性 that 怎么样呢 does 他会来做 most of the work of 就是这个工作大多数是由男性来做的什么工作呢 the work of raising the kids 抚养小孩抚养下一代育儿工作呢大部分是由男性来做的所以这是某一些这个 in some species 有一些品种里面物种有些物种species 是物种好然后呢在这个句子一开始他还有讲到说 there is also 我们也有 paternal 这个就是父性的意思 maternal mother 的 M 所以是母性的妈妈的跟妈妈有关的那 paternal 它是跟父 父亲有关啊。那所以呢 ，there is also a paternal instinct， 也有一个父性的本能啊。然后呢，在某些物种里面，其实是男性来负责主要照顾的育儿工作。
So the next sentence says, in this article, we honor a few of the best dads around, some of which may surprise you. And I just want to poke fun at the language a little bit. If you have to honor somebody to do something, it means that generally they don't. It's pointing out how much in the animal world fathers are uninvolved with their offspring, so that we have to really point out the ones or two that do actually pull their own weight in terms of parenting.
好，所以呢，这个 honor 这个字呢，为什么要 honor？ 因为通常别人不会，通常不会做，大家通常不会做，所以做了的人，我们就要 honor 他。所以这里有一点那种蛮有趣的意思。大多数的爸爸都，动物界的爸爸都不太负责任，所以呢，我们要向这些负责任的爸爸，好好跟他们表达敬意。
I guess to encourage the rest of them?
Yeah. 那希望别的这个不负责任的爸爸能够多少学一点啊。那我们看到这个句子，他说，所以在这篇文章里面 we honor 我们向什么什么致敬啊，我们表扬一下啊这些动物界里面最棒的爸爸啊 a few of the best dads around 就是 in the world 啊。那 some of which 就这些很棒的爸爸里面呢 may surprise you 可能会让你觉得很讶异，说哎呦真的他们这么好啊。
To be honest, I was very surprised about the emperor penguin. I had no idea that the mom would leave for so long.I mean, I knew she left, but I didn't know she could leave for up to 120 days.
Yeah,
That's really trusting.
真的是啊，这个真的她很信任她的老公啊。她一走，这个母企鹅，等一下我们会看到，她蛋一生下来之后，她可能会离开啊，可能长达120天啊，这4个月的时间，小孩都让这个公企鹅照顾，所以母企鹅显然很相信这个公企鹅。
It's also like really taking turns. She's like, okay, I did all the hard work of making the baby.
Yeah.
Now you do the hard work of making it come out of the egg.
Yeah, 所以好像两个也在分工一样哈。这个母企鹅怀孕生产非常辛苦，然后呢，生产完之后呢，就交给父亲接手了。Yeah.
So if an award were handed out for the best father on the planet,One of the strongest contenders or competitors for that title would be the emperor penguin, the king of all penguins.
好，所以如果有一个奖啊 ，award were handed out， 这假设语气啊，如果有一个奖被颁发，好 ，hand out 就颁发或者发放啊 ，for the best father 要给谁呢？给最好的爸爸 on the planet， 这个世界上地球上最好的爸爸，有这么一个奖的话呢？ One of the strongest contenders, strong 就是强啊，最强的一个角逐者 contenders 啊，所以最强角逐者之一啊。那角逐什么呢 ？Contenders for that title 啊，你要争全世界最棒的爸爸啊，全球最棒爸爸、最佳父亲啊，这样的一个 title， 一个很强而有力的角逐者 would be 将会是。啊，这个皇帝企鹅，那各位注意到这个假设语气哈 ，if an award were handed out， 然后在这个主要子句里面呢，好 ，one of the strongest contenders for that title would be 啊，所以正好这个与现在事实相反的假设语气。这为什么假设语气呢？这其实叫做这个假设语气是一种虚拟的用法，就是我们假设这件事情有发生的话啊，你要选最棒的爸爸的话，那么这个皇帝企鹅他是一个很强的竞争者。
Once the female has laid an egg, to lay an egg means to produce an egg. She is exhausted because, first of all, the eggs that these guys lay are huge, and it's a lot of work. And second of all, she hasn't eaten during this whole time, and so she must return to the sea to feed herself, to eat.
好，所以一旦这个母企鹅 has laid an egg， 它下了蛋之后啊，那这个laid 要注意它的三态哈，它原形动词 lay 哈，然后呢，这个过去式跟过去分词都是 laid 哈 laid 啊，它一旦生下了蛋之后呢，它就 exhausted， 它就这个累坏了，然后呢，必须 return to the sea， 要回到海里面去干嘛呢 ？To feed 去进食啊 ，feed 就是去进食去吃东西。
Now that leaves it entirely up to the male.To make sure the egg remains safe and warm during her absence, which may last more than 120 days. Like, she might be gone more than 4 months. Good Lord. So to leave something up to somebody means you just hand the whole thing over to somebody else. Like, hey, Wesley, now it's your turn. Go for it. And you're like, thanks, Angela.
好，所以这个 to leave something up to 某人啊，那就是把某个东西交给某人处理或者决定啊。那最简单的英文也很常用嘛 ，It's up to you 啊，类似的用法 ，It's up to you 就是你看你啊，你觉得怎样就怎样啊。
If you're going to step up, sure. If you don't, it's not my business.
Yeah 啊，所以我记得以前小时候听过一首歌，好像叫做 I'm leaving it up to you.
Oh yeah, that does sound familiar, but can't think of the tune.
Yeah 哈，所以呢，这个用法是这样子。那我们看到这个句子，他说 that 就是指母细儿会回海里面去进食这件事情呢 ，leaves it entirely up to the male， 就把 it 这件事情完全交给 the male 来处理或者决定的。那这个 it 代表了leaves it entirely up to， 那个 it 代表了就是后面这个不定词片语to make sure 什么什么什么什么所以就把这件事情，把 make sure 底下这件事情呢，完全交给爸爸
Which is an interesting kind of clear example of natural selection, because only those animals, those babies for whom the father decided to take care of it will survive. So that's a direct passing down of the caring for your baby's genes.
Yeah 好，所以这也是自然界的一个取舍的准则这只有爸爸愿意照顾的那些 babies 他能够存活下来，其他就等于说被淘汰掉了。好，那我们来继续看这个句子。所以要让这个爸爸来处理什么呢？ make sure that 就他一定要确保 the egg 就是生下来这个蛋 remains safe and warm 能够维持在安全还有很温暖的状况之下，叫做 remains safe and warm。然后呢 during her absence 就在母细儿不在的时候during her 就是指那个母细儿她的 absence 她不在的时候。那 which 就是指 her absence 她不在这段期间呢 may last 可能会持续 more than 120 days 可能会持续超过120天。
Wow, so this, making sure the egg remains safe and warm, is no easy task. And if you've ever cared for a baby, keeping them alive in the first couple months is a frighteningly difficult task. Now, in this case, you're only taking care of an egg, but you're taking care of an egg in the most adverse of conditions, and that egg is huge.
Yeah, adverse, A-D-V-E-R-S-E, adverse 就是这个很逆境这个一切都对你不利的这样的一个环境或者是一个状态。那我们来继续看这个句子所以 This is no easy task 这句话它的语气其实很重，它翻成中文差不多就是这可不是什么简单的事儿这种感觉你不要说这不是简单的事没有那么，它的语气更重的是这可不是什么简单的事。那为什么英文语气会那么重呢？因为它用 no 在这里它就是很强调的语气This is no easy task 有那种感觉，你不要搞错了，这可不容易那种感觉 Yeah
And here's what you got to do.To keep the egg from freezing, because if an egg freezes, it's going to die. So to keep it from freezing on the Antarctic ice, you can't just let it sit on the ground. The male has to do what? They have to balance the egg on top of his feet. So he's sitting there trying to keep this egg on top of his feet and not rolling away, which is also dangerous.
好，所以要保持这个蛋to keep the egg from 让它不至于keep something from 怎么样，就让这个事情不至于如何。所以要让这个蛋不至于 freezing 不会冻坏掉在这个南极洲的这个冰上面，因为他们在南极洲的冰上面生活那你把这个蛋如果放在地上的话，哇，那个冰非常的冷那个蛋2-3下就冻坏了所以它不能这样子，它不能为了让这个蛋继续保持温暖，不会被 freeze 不会这个 freeze 不会冻坏呢a male 那公企鹅 must balance 它一定要保持平衡，要稳住这个蛋 on top of his feet 所以他是把这个蛋放在他的脚上这样这个蛋就不会直接接触那个冰。可是呢他要把这个蛋保持平衡，保持非常的好，万一那个蛋从他脚上滚下来就糟糕了，就要么就受冻，要么就别的企鹅踩下去那都不好。
Meanwhile, at the same time, the father uses a warm patch of skin on his belly to provide warmth for the egg. So that means you're only heating one side of the egg. So I imagine you're also having to turn the egg at points.
好，所以呢，这个同时呢，这个爸爸 uses 他会用一个 warm 一个很温暖的 patch， 就是一块啊，就跟周围不一样的一块或者一片。好，他这里用的是一片的这个skin， 它的皮毛啊 ，on his belly 啊，的爸爸的肚子呢有一块特别暖的一块皮毛啊，它可以怎么样 provide warmth 提供温暖给这个蛋啊，所以他不但要让这个蛋很稳的放在他脚上啊，而且可能3不5时要转动那个蛋啊，让他这个蛋能够接触到他身体温暖的部分，让接触这个爸爸身体这个温暖的一部分，这样蛋才不会这个被冻坏。
Not only that, but the male must also sleep standing up. Don't they always sleep standing up, though?
I'm not sure, actually.
I don't know. I've never actually seen a penguin sleep.
Yeah, 所以我们所以 not only that 就是不止这样 ，not only that but 就是这个还有这个 but 在这里是跟那个 not only that 一起的所以 not only that but 怎么样？而且呢，这个 but 在这里其实中文可以翻成而且不只是这样子，而且呢，这个公企鹅还必须要 sleep 睡觉，而且是 standing up 是站着睡sleep standing up 就站着睡觉。那刚刚 Angela 老师问说，企鹅不是都站着睡吗？那我也不知道没有看过企鹅睡觉。
But the trick is to sleep while not letting the egg roll away.
那难的是这个爸爸睡着了，但不会让这个蛋滚走，这是很难的。Yeah.
Ooh. Moreover, besides all this, the male doesn't eat during the entire time the mother is away. This can't be true. How can a male not eat for 4 months? I imagine that if it's been a long time, he might leave during a sunny period to quick catch some fish, but I don't know.
那更有甚者这个公企鹅呢，它不吃不进食During the entire time the mother is away. 在妈妈不在的整段时间里面，公企鹅都不吃东西。
Now, in contrast to the cold and the kind of stillness that is required of the emperor penguin, the Namaqua sand grouse has to do an entirely different thing. They have to travel for water.
这个纳马夸沙鸡sand grouse 就是沙鸡。
So while male emperor penguins need to keep eggs safe in temperatures lower than minus 40 degrees Celsius and in winds that reach as high as 200 kilometers an hour, i.e. very cold, the male Namaqua sand grouse of Africa has an entirely different problem. They have the opposite of problems.
Wow, 是对比这一方面呢，皇帝企鹅它需要让蛋保持在这个温度是低于要在低于摄氏40度的温度里面，让这个蛋能够安全Temperatures 是加 S 的，因为那个温度不会完全维持在摄氏-40度。好，所以一方面要在这么冷的天气里面让蛋保持安全。好，然后而且那个风这个风它 reach 那个风速可以高达每小时200公里所以非常强的风所以它问题很大。但是呢，相对而言，这个男的这个Namaqua这个沙鸡呢，它是在非洲的，那它面临的一个完全不同的问题 ，has an entirely different problem.
So they are in a hot, dry desert climate, and this bird may need to fly up to 30 kilometers, which is shorter for a bird than walking for a human, but is still not a short distance. And they might have to do this to reach a water hole, because in Africa, water collects in holes and that all the animals have to go and drink. So not only are you just going to the water hole, it is full of dangerous to you animals.
Yeah.
And it has to do this in order to bring water back to its nest, because the baby birds will need water.
好，那在这个很热很干的沙漠的气候里面呢，这种沙鸡它有可能会必须要飞高达30公里才会到水坑water holes， 然后目的是它才能够取水带回它的巢穴里面。
So it does this. How does it bring water back? Does it bring a little water bottle? It does not. What it does is it wades in the pond. It goes into the pond and sits in it for about 15 minutes so that its feathers soak up the water. So it just carries the water in its feathers.
那它怎么做呢？ It does this by 这个 wading 啊，就是涉水或者是趟水踩着水啊 ，in the pond 在这个池塘里面踩着水，踩15分钟啊，这样它的羽毛就会 soak up 吸取了这个水。
Back at the nest, the sandgrouse chicks crowd around the male and drink the water from its feathers.
回到巢里面呢，那这个沙鸡的小的这个沙鸡呢，就 crowd around 就挤在这个爸爸的四周，然后呢，从它的羽毛上面喝水。
And listening to this story makes me realize that I have never, ever thought about birds drinking water before in my life.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I guess they need to do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what do other birds do in other nests in like North America? Where do they get their water from?
Yeah, 所以这让我们想要去了解说，那其他的鸟怎么办？它怎么样带水给它这个小鸟喝呢？
It's an entirely new aspect to the world.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all the time we have for you today about animal fathers, but come back tomorrow and we have 3 more animal father stories